distilled shenanigans. Irish distilled shenanigans. Irish. Welcome to the Irish Whiskey Distilled Shenanigans episode. I thought we'd take a little quick break from the Gateway Bourbon series to pay tribute to the whole St. Patrick's Day shenanigans. I love St. Patrick's Day. I am also part Irish, so I do like to pay tribute to that heritage every now and again as well. Yes, we were the D.E.W clan, and we are here causing all sorts of trouble. There's so much history with Irish whiskey, way more than what bourbon has. So I could do like a whole lecture series just on all of the distilleries and the rise and fall of Irish whiskey and all of the things, but I will not bore you to tears just yet. What is Irish whiskey? This isn't going to come as a shock to any of you, but it has to be distilled in Ireland. I know, pretty amazing. It has to be distilled, or is usually distilled with a malted barley and then blended with some grain whiskey. It has to be aged no less than 3 years. So how does that compare to our bourbon brethren? Bourbon has to be aged a minimum of 2 years, and it has to be at least 51% corn, which we do not see in the Irish whiskeys, and it has to be aged in a new oak barrel in the United States. The Irish whiskeys do not need to have a new barrel. They typically use barrels that have been used for bourbon and sherry. The corn in the bourbon is going to make ours a little bit sweeter, and the barley is going to make things a little bit spicier, but it's also going to be smoother than a typical bourbon. Like I said, we have so much history and so little time. Bourbon, or the whiskey, I'm going to have a hard time. I'm going to go back and forth between bourbon and Irish whiskey. It's going to be a tough go here. The Irish whiskey is one of the oldest distilled spirits in Europe, dating back to about 1200. So there's a ton of history to go through, including the rise and fall of Irish whiskey, which can be a whole series in and of itself. So we will keep it to the head-to-head combat between Jameson and Tullamore D.E.W. I've never had the Tullamore D.E.W, as I said before, so this should be interesting. There's a lot of things that are similar between these two whiskeys. Both are 80 proof. Neither one has an age statement. They're both blended whiskeys, and supposedly they're both smooth. They're also both aged in barrels that were already used for either bourbon or sherry. From there, everything just kind of goes a little crazy. The Tullamore D.E.W is a blend of single malt and grain whiskey, and you will notice that it has a very light color. We'll see if we can really get in here. It's almost like an apple juice, actually. If you get it into the light, it's very, very light in color, where the Jameson might have picked up a little bit more of the sherry from the cask, and it has a little bit more of an amber red color to it. Let's start in with the Jameson, because we know what we have here. All right. I'm feeling some baking spices, so maybe a little cinnamon and nutmeg. It's sweeter of a smell. Definitely some fruit notes in there. I don't smell a whole lot of oak, which is a nice change from some of the bourbon we've been giving a try, and also smelling a little bit of caramel. Let's go in for a taste. Oh, that's smooth. It's smooth, medium-bodied, with a little bit of malt, with some vanilla, and a little bit of spice. It doesn't finish too heavy. It's not overwhelming, but it's not underwhelming. Oh, coming back in after tasting it, I absolutely smell like whatever the banana bread flavor, maybe like nutmeg with walnut. Oh, that smells tasty. I don't know if I've ever actually sipped a Jameson. Good, bad, or ugly. All right. Up next, we have the Tullamore D.E.W. Now, the reason I picked this one to go head to head with Jameson, two reasons. One, it's the same price point. And two, some of the mixologists that I know like to make their cocktails with Tullamore D.E.W. instead of Jameson because it has a little bit different flavor and they feel like it mixes better with fruity drinks. So let's see what we have here. Okay, so on this one, I smell a little bit of caramel and maybe even some butterscotch, which is an interesting flavor to smell. I feel like there could be a little bit of an oaky undertone to it, but it's nothing that's very pronounced at all. Oh, wow. That feel in the mouth is so much different than the Jameson. If whiskey could be a custard, that is how I would describe that. It is a very smooth, very dense on the palate, but yet very good. Right, let's try this again. I definitely taste a little bit more spice, subtle spice in the back. This is definitely a smoother, gentler whiskey than the Jameson. Jameson is more robust, but if you're just in the mood for a nice sip, or I can see that mixing very well in a cocktail right there. The finish is silky, has maybe like almost a honey flavor to it. Oh man, they're so different. Yeah, this one finishes a little bit harder, a little bit more meaty on that hug. Then this one's kind of like just there, just a little gentle, nice, long finish. It doesn't start with much, but then it definitely lingers there, especially with the flavor. I think if I was going to be having a more sophisticated evening where I just didn't want anything super heavy and wanted a little sweetness, I think I'd put Tullamore D.E.W. on the list. Now, Jameson has got a lot of flavor and a lot of profile in there. Nothing's wrong with that. It's good for a lot of things. And I think I've been known to have a few of these out and about as well. So next time you're out and you see Tullamore D.E.W., don't be afraid of it. Give her a try if you're in the mood for something a little silkier and a little smoother. There you have it. Whiskey shenanigans. Cheers.